Alright, this is going to be kind of a quick summary video. I spent some time off stream working on this and came to a solution. I think eventually I was overthinking things maybe, but this the solution is this code right here. Basically it boils down to considering each consecutive set of potions to be brewed. I created a kind of a base, two base arrays called base start and remain that would give me some baseline values for a 1 mana cost potion. So let me go ahead and print what they look like to explain what's going on. So if the skills for the wizards were 1524 and 1524, assuming that there was a mana cost of 1 for the potion, that means that you're basically scaling the time it takes to do the time that each wizard takes by 1. So base start is going to be kind of assuming that the potion is brewed at start time 0. The first person will finish at time 1. The next person will finish at time 6, 1 plus 5. Next person finishes at time 8, 6 plus 2. Next person finishes at time 12, 8 plus 4. So base start at index I will be when the ith wizard starts it, assuming that the potion started at time 0, and base start at I plus 1 is when the ith wizard ends it. So 1 is the end time for the first wizard to finish that potion. 6 is the end time for the second wizard to finish their kind of part of the potion. So that's, you can either think of it base start as similar to base end, base start being kind of offset by 1 with base end. The remain array is the remaining time from that wizard to when the potion would finish. So when the first wizard gets their potion, it'll take another 12 kind of minutes to finish the potion, because that's 1 plus 5 plus 2 plus 4. And then similarly, when the second person gets the potion, it'll take them 11 minutes to finish, 5 plus 2 plus 4. Third person is 6, and fourth person is 4, and if there was a fifth person, then it'd be 0. So this is just creating those two arrays, the base start. Base start is basically like a prefix array, akin to a prefix array for the skill array. Prefix array is the sum of values up to a certain index. Slightly off because it's starting at 0, but whatever. Okay, so those are the two. And then to calculate the time it takes to do things, I consider it as a delay, kind of a delay, where, okay, so the mana cost is just a scaling of these factors, because all mana does is affect how big these numbers are. If the mana cost is 5, then all these numbers are multiplied by 5. Like, assuming that it starts at time 0, then the first person finishes at time 5, then this person finishes at time 30, finishes or starts at time 30, whatever. 5 times 8 would be 40, and then 12 times 5 would be 60. So it would take like 60, the start of the 5th person or the end of the 4th person would be 60. And then similarly, like it takes a total of 60 minutes from the start of the first person, 55 minutes from the second person, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 0 minutes from the remaining time. So the math basically boils down to, can you determine based on the previous potion when it kind of ends and how much additional time the current potion needs from this position, and the maximum kind of end time based on those calculations for each wizard. So for every potion, there's a cost for the potion, which is mana P. I'm going to consider calculating the maximum end time for every wizard when they get that potion to the end. And this maximum end time is what I want to track for every potion. So for every wizard, I'm going to calculate the end time on that wizard based on the start time from the previous potion. So the start time from the previous potion is scaling the start time that they normally have. So this is offset by 1 because if you think about Wizard 0 would start doing a potion at like time 1, which is when they finish doing the previous potion. So scaled by, so when they finish doing the previous potion is when the wizard after them starts, scaled by whatever potion cost that was. So that's the start time of when they start the current potion, and then the end time is going to be however long it takes, however long remaining time there is, scaled by the cost of the current potion. Actually, I think maybe maybe this mana cost is just unnecessary to define. Remaining costs times mana of P. So here, end time equals start from finish of last potion plus remaining time for current potion. Yeah, scaled by whatever you need to scale by, right? And then if this end time is, and then I'm just tracking the longest end time, and then the total delay is removing the cost of the previous one. I kind of forget exactly the logic here, but that's just how it works. And then the total delay starts at 0, increments by every potion's delay, and then you return the total delay. Yeah, so the logic there was much simpler than I was initially trying for with matrices, but the matrices just collapsed to these kind of incremental potion, however long it takes for additional potion to be computed based on the previous potion. And then there was a lot of work that I did where initially I was creating the whole matrix of n times and and finish remaining times and doing math based on that. But yeah, it just boiled down. But that took a lot of space, and eventually I just collapsed it to just not even keeping track of a single array, but just individual variables. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff here. Yeah, this is, I don't know, this was in some ways simpler than I gave it credit for. Still pretty hard. And the speed of this thing that I got was still maybe not fully efficient, because I think there was, yeah, this is in the 5,000, so like 5 seconds. And then there's something over here that's extremely fast. I'm not going to check. So summary, this is going to be, consider calculating the relative time or extra, the relative delay in, or consider calculating the end time for each potion based on, or the end time that each wizard would have for a potion based on when they kind of finish the last potion, and how long the remaining time is for the current potion. So that's all boiled down to like this calculation right here. The latest, or the max end time for every wizard for that potion should be used as the end time for that potion. Like if in theory wizard 1 can finish if in theory wizard 1 starting at a certain time finishes at time 10 for that potion, if everything was sequentially after that, and then wizard 2 starting at whatever time finishes at time 60 and finishes, and wizard 3 starting at that potion at that time finished at 30, then in some ways like 60 was the slowing factor. So as the slowest end determines the overall time constraint for that potion, and then calculate the overall sum of all those delayed end times as the total time it takes for doing all potions. Yeah, even I don't fully, there's some reason that I do subtraction of the previous mana cost, total mana cost. And then there's some other stuff that I did that only makes it possible. Like I appended 0 to the mana cost because otherwise mana at p minus 1 would be out of bounds for p equals 0. And you need to initialize that or have a baseline for that. Anyways, time complexity, this is going to be O of nn, where n is the number of wizards and m equals potions, as you need to iterate over every possible kind of n time combination to determine the speed of each potion, the time of each potion. So this is definitely a nested for loop of going through every potion, every wizard, to determine the delay. Note, accepted graph seems to indicate that there is a much more efficient algorithm possible. If there was someone that had a legitimate answer at 224 milliseconds where I have 6 seconds, then yeah, they're doing something I don't know about. Space complexity, this can be O of Mn. No, actually, sorry. Initially I went ahead my matrices that gave these things, it was actually O of Mn, but this is actually just O of M to, no, actually O of N, to have a base start and remain arrays that pre-compute the baseline end and remaining times for each wizard, which simplifies the calculation. This is then used, the values in these arrays are scaled by the mana cost of the current and last potions to get the time values. Otherwise you would need to actually calculate, you need to do the multiplication and then maybe store it within a matrix or something. Very necessary, as a matrix would have too many values if it's n by n, in which case it's like 225 million, something like that, which I actually did have, and it definitely did crash. Anyways, that's it.